Hi, I'm Howard Jones and you're watching Live Minute TV.
Electronic music pioneer Howard Jones has been a constant presence on the international music scene for the past 4 decades. With a unique style and sound that invented a new wave all his own, he's still wowing fans across the globe and has just released Live at the O2, recorded in London, that's not to be missed. While hitting the Northeast arenas on tour a few months back, he stopped by our Life Minute studio so we could get to know him well. This is a Life Minute with Howard Jones.
Howard Jones in the house. Thanks for joining us on Life Minute.
So happy to be here.
So glad to be with you in person this time.
Yes, that's right. It was Zoom before, wasn't it?
Yes. Right after COVID on Zoom. So it's great to have you in real life. You look amazing.
Well, thank you very much.
And how are you doing?
I'm doing super well. We're just coming to the end of the tour, and it's gone so well that I'm so buzzed up with it. We've had amazing reception, sold out shows. We had to add shows. And I haven't had that for a while. It's been building towards that, but suddenly it's all like caught fire. So I'm very, very excited about it.
That's so great.
There's plans. The plans to do another leg. I'm sure we'll be doing something this next summer as well.
What are fans going to get when they see you guys play?
I think of my show as being like a hybrid show. My love of technology has always been there since the beginning, but I was trained as a pianist. I went to music college, did classical piano till I was 21. So I have these two sides to me, which is like, well, hopefully, accomplished playing, and then the technology side, which I try and keep up with. So the show's a mixture of those two things. We'll do some banging tunes with the electronics and the sequencers and everything, and then go to the piano with my guitarist and Nick, my bassist, and we'll do some acoustic songs and involve the audience in that. So to me, that's the perfect balance, and I've worked towards that because we've done both things. I've done the trio where we've made it mainly acoustic, and we've done the electronic now I'm just sort of marrying the two together. And the fans seem to really like that because it's sort of, you get a break from all the banging tunes, and then you can sort of like savor the song side of it, No One Is to Blame and Life in One Day. And I've got Nick Beggs with me, so we do Too Shy as well, his big, huge hit. The audiences love that. I'm so lucky that I've got so many songs that people know. They join in, and it's like a sort of celebration, really.
So nice. And I think there's been a resurgence of 80s. Have you noticed that as well?
Obviously I've been touring the whole time since the 80s, but it seems to be that there's a new generation discovering the music, and that, I suppose, is the most exciting thing for me. Those songs they're hearing for the first time, so it's like a new song. How exciting is that? And they're liking it. And when I see the young people down the front, and maybe their parents have brought them to the show, maybe they've been force-fed Howard Jones their whole life, and they're dancing like crazy. They're getting the EDM influences that we have, and it's very exciting. Yeah.
And your songs have been in so many things too, Stranger Things and Breaking Bad and Watchmen, the Watchmen film. So, they're seeing it there too for the first time, I think, as well.
Yeah, well, that's exciting for me as well, and get asked to have my songs in those high-profile. Well, Stranger Things, I said, please have the song, please put it in, because I watch it myself, and I love it. And but I saw, the huge Kate Bush effect when her songs featured. But they play the whole of Things Can Only Get Better, I think it's in season 3. Suddenly all my streaming is like going through the roof, and I'm thinking, the music business is always just surprising me, the changes, and you have to roll with it all, My daughter is running my social media, and she is absolutely smashing it, because she is from that generation that understands what social media should be, and I'm on TikTok.
That's great.
And, going back to your first question, I think it's all these things suddenly coming together. What I'd love to be is sort of a multi-generation artist, that kids could come and all the generations could feel comfortable with being at the show. That's what I'd love to happen.
I'd say it is happening for sure. And your kids seem very helpful. Your son, you were saying before.
Yeah. Jasper designed this T-shirt for me, and he's done a whole set of them for me, and he comes with me shopping to get clothes, and because we're all into fashion, it's kind of in the family DNA, you know. So they all help me get great clothes and things that will work for me. And yeah, even the way I open the show in this big pink coat is actually my son's coat, and he lent it to me for this, you know. So we go to second-hand shops and look back through the archives of my clothes, because I've always kept everything, you know, through the years, so we can mix and match with new things, and that's all part of the fun. Going out on stage for me is like, you want the audience to feel a sense of drama, and you know, what's he going to wear tonight, and how crazy is he going to be, you know. And I always like that when I see artists, and so it's just a natural thing for me.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's so great. And what is it with music and fashion? I guess it's just a creative thing, right? There's such a connection.
When I started out, I was a one-man band with my synths and drum machines, and my friend Jed, who was doing like performance art dancing, you know, in different characters. And then we borrowed TVs and had VHS player with videos so always the visuals were such a big part of what I did, and the drama. So that's really just continued, you know, through all this time.
And you started playing were you 7 when you started playing?
Yeah, my parents were Welsh, so there's a huge musical tradition in Wales that you sing, you recite poetry, when you go and visit your relatives, you play the piano. They were really keen for me to learn the piano. And, you know, like many people, when I hated it at first because I couldn't go out to play with football with my mates and cricket and stuff. And then I got to the age of 9 and I heard something on the radio, a tune that I could play on the piano, and suddenly they couldn't stop me playing. You know, I mean, I became a nuisance.
What was the tune that you heard?
It was actually Puppet on a String by Sandy Shaw. And she won the Eurovision Song Contest with it. And I heard it, I can play this. That was it. It just opened the door to me, like playing other tunes and learning other tunes, and then eventually doing my own. And at the same time, I really realised that playing all the classical music was giving me the facility to play.
So it's a little bit of both, like you were self-taught, but you can also play by ear too?
Yeah, that's right. And I've never been particularly good at sight reading. You know, some amazing classical musicians, they can see a piece for some and then just play it. It's always been a struggle for me doing that, but I can hear things and learn it, you know, that way. And I've gone back to, you know, doing a bit more study of classical music recently to learn, you know, just learn basically about harmony, and, you know, any quality input can trigger stuff within you, you know, even though I'm not a classical musician. I appreciate what those composers did and how they worked and everything, yeah.
Amazing. So you're still learning. That's great.
Yeah.
There's always something to learn, I guess,
lifelong,
right?
Lifelong, yeah.
And then you created that electronic sound. How did that happen?
I was at music college up in Manchester. It was the Royal Northern College of Music. I fluked getting in. They said I played Bach with a jazz feel, which was like kind of a compliment really to me. So I managed to get in, but then 2 years in, I thought, I love playing some of this music, but I really need to get on with my own music. And I was playing in bands up there, and I was on the radio doing pieces, you know, in the middle of the night. I thought, but I really need to get on, so I just quit. And I said, sorry, I've got to leave. And my piano teacher begged me to stay, because he said, oh, well, play me something of yours. So I played him some of my pieces that I've been working on. And he said, please don't leave, you know, go on the composer's course. But my mind was made up, and I left. Went back to live with my mum and dad, and got this idea for a one-man electronic band, because the equipment was just coming to the level where you could just about afford it. I was doing like all kinds of jobs. I was working in factories, I was giving piano lessons, I was doing all kinds of jobs for friends. I had about 4 jobs to get the money coming in so I could buy equipment, and then started doing 2 or 3 shows a week with the synths and the drum machines, and it just developed from there. It was because there was no one around that I really knew that I could form a band with. There wasn't a singer around, so I had to learn how to sing my own songs myself. I always thought someone else would sing them, but it turned out that it had to be me. We played in tiny places, but people really loved it. It was something new, like this is a new sound, and we're going to follow this guy, and they would follow me up to London when we played in London, and it was a very genuine grassroots build. And that's what always sort of saddened me when I finally got signed and the music press said that it was like a kind of manufactured pop star, you know what I mean? But couldn't have been further from the truth. I was playing everything myself, I was writing everything myself, and inventing a new way of doing things that influenced a whole generation of EDM artists. It's like, the great thing about when you get that kind of negative thing come to you, it makes you strong, because it gives you a backbone, so like really believe in what you do, and to I'm going to keep going. You're giving me fuel, you're giving me the energy to go. So in a way, you can turn anything to your advantage if you have that attitude.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. What do you think of music today with all of the technology at your fingertips now? Are you a faux or?
Yeah. No, I think, it's like everything can be used, in a great way, and then there'll be a few people who want to use it to steal your stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, it's always going to be the case. So I'm never afraid of new developments, like the AI thing. Now, it's just people have to be responsible with it and realize and not use it to destroy the music business. I mean, for me as an artist creating things, to have those tools can be really useful to make music that maybe people, sounds that people have never heard before. And when I started out, they wanted to ban me from the Musicians Union because I was using synthesizers that they thought would be getting rid of people's jobs and stuff like that. But of course, you end up employing hundreds and hundreds of people to work with you, and then there was sampling, and then people go, oh, this is going to ruin everything, people are going to just steal your sounds. And okay, well, a few people did, but also we got this explosion of amazing new music because of sampling. So I'm always hopeful that human beings will always choose the honourable way to use the new tech, and there'll always be a few that don't, but that's the way it is.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. What inspires you creatively?
I have my Buddhist practice, and in this nearly 30 years now I've been practicing. So the wisdom of that, teaching really, really inspires me, and I always try and put that into my work, into my lyrics. The lyrics are very important to me. I think of music as being this very privileged position because you sort of get into people's heads with music. So I want to make sure that the words that go with the music are of benefit to the person who's listening, and they may not need it at the moment or need it most of the time, but there's always a time when you need a boost and you need a little bit of encouragement. I hope that the lyrics will bring that to people, and the spirit of the song, the uplifting nature of it. So that's what I've always thought was my role, is to do that and to stick to it and keep going with it.
What comes first, the lyrics or the music?
It's usually the music, and then I've got loads of subjects that I want to write about and things I want to talk about, and then I choose the right vibe of the music to go with that, and that takes the time for me doing the lyrics because it's the most important thing. The music flows quite well, but the lyrics, they take a bit of time, yeah.
Who were your influences?
Obviously my classical piano work was a big influence. My mother played the radio all the time. We didn't have a record player or anything at home. My mother was always listening to the radio, so I'm hearing the Beatles, and I'm hearing the Tremolos and those 60s bands. My dad bought me a little transistor radio when I was 11, and I listened to pirate radio stations. And then I was going to see gigs. Then when I was 14, I went to the Isle of Wight Music Festival and saw The Doors and The Who and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Joni Mitchell and Jimi Hendrix. I was so fortunate to see all those people on the same bill, and I've missed out loads of them that were incredible. And then, Stevie Wonder, Keith Emerson, a huge influence on me with keyboard playing and synthesizers. Elton John's brilliant songwriting. I've rediscovered Billy Joel.
Oh, really?
And I'm going through Billy Joel's catalogue, and it's like, oh my God, the songs. There's just a million people that you feed on, and then inspires you to make your own thing.
Did your parents see you become famous?
Yes, they did. Bless them. They ran my fan club, and my mother particularly wrote to thousands of young people struggling with things, and she wrote to them personally, encouraging them. And people are still coming up to me now, and with these yellow sheets she used to write on, saying, "This is a letter from your mother." And it's like, I think, what an incredible legacy that she left, and she promoted the values that I have so beautifully. And she used to do things like send photographs that she shouldn't be sending. It was like she treated them all like family, So she's sending like pictures of Jan, my wife, and the kids as babies. It was like just sending them to fans, because to her they were her extended family. I mean, isn't that incredible? I mean, we never charged anything for the fan club. It was always, we just wanted to do it because they're fans, look after them. And then they toured with me, and the funny thing happened with that was that everywhere we went, and they were on the tour bus with me, they were in their 60s, on the tour, and everywhere we went, they'd get off the bus and there'd be fans waiting for them to take them round, show them the sights.
That's amazing.
And I used to say that they're more famous than I. I mean, they've got more love coming towards them than, but I thought that was a wonderful thing, and they had the time of their life, going, actually meeting the people they were writing to, and they used to sell the merch, and it was a real mom and pop.
That's beautiful.
But the fans loved it because that was their connection. So with me, so it was great.
Yeah, that's so great. I love it.
Yeah.
And now you're still keeping that kind of family tradition going. Sounds like the whole family's involved.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's right. They've all got their own careers and things as well, which is wonderful. But they really support me so well. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah.
That's awesome. Tell us a little bit about your new music.
We put out an album. It was I've never played the O2 in London. It's quite an iconic gig, So we recorded it. You never know whether it's going to work, whether the recording is going to be all right, whether you had technical issues or something like that. But it all sounded so good, and we were all really pumped up, playing that venue. So mixed it with my friend Robbie, and thought it's like a souvenir of the show we're doing at the moment. So if you want to hear where we've got to with the songs, I mean, there's the songs on the record, but now, all these years later, they're much more up to date, and they're the way I want things to sound now, and it reflects that. So I thought it'd be good time to release a live album.
How did you twist them when you say like a little more updated? What did you do?
Yeah, well, things like Things Can Only Get Better. We do the song quite faithful to the original, and then we go into this sort of remix version that's like pumped up. It's like EDM. Everyone's up, jumping out of their seats, and all the young people are going, yeah! But we try and get everyone doing that. And then things like To Get to Know You Well, I put in like South American rhythms in the middle. I always want to present like a little surprise in songs that people know, so it's not just like the record that, oh yeah, there's something extra you're getting tonight.
Do you have a favorite?
At the moment, my favorite is Hide and Seek, which is a slow song, and I'm always a little bit nervous about doing things that are that slow live, because most of the set is really up, but we've done a new electronic version of it, and it's got like a heartbeat rhythm, you know, and it just creates an incredible atmosphere, and then you can go back to the more, you know, bouncy stuff. So it's like taking people on a journey during the set of like all different emotions, and then at the end it's like celebrating being alive. I want people to walk out of the show with a spring in their step and ready to take on any difficulty and any problem in their life, and to really, you know, be like boosted by having seen the show. That's my aim.
And what's next? What are you working on next?
I set myself a goal of like doing 4 albums, and I've done 3 of them. It was Engage, Transform, and then Dialogue. And now the next one is going to be called Global Citizen. And I'm not quite sure what it's going to be yet. I think I'm thinking we'll record it here in America, because I spend so much time here now, and I want to record with American musicians, and it'd be a much more of a song-based album, maybe not so electronic, because the last 3 were, but this one to really capture a lot of different influences from around the world, you know, global rhythms, and musically represent the fact that we are living on one planet, you know, and then the lyrics will reflect that everything we do affects everyone else, and you know, we've got to be aware that we've only got one planet and one world. We've got to look after it. And so that's going to be the theme of it. And I think having as many collaborators as possible is going to be a way of sort of reflecting that as a philosophy, because if I just did it on my own, that's not really being a global citizen. It's like, you know, there's a place for that. But if I involve a lot of people helping me to make the record, that's like, you have to cooperate, you have to listen, you have to have dialogue with people, and so the music should reflect that philosophy. Yeah.
You sort of answered this, but what does music do for people?
Well, I think it's totally unique music. It can really lift people's spirits. It can really share a feeling, you know, of sorrow or happiness, or it can take people out of their current predicament and problems and difficulties, and it can transport them to another place, you know, for a bit of respite from all that. Yeah, it's an amazing thing, and I always get worried when it gets undervalued, you know, because actually music is so valuable, and we must protect it, and we must support artists who are making music, and we must support young people who are making music, and there should be music lessons at school, and you know, choirs, and you know, it's one of those things. Can you see tangibly the value? No, you can't. But you go to a gig and see how that deeply affects people and lifts them, you know, for that moment that they're there, and hopefully they can carry that over.
So for you, you had that drive that you had to create it, you had to give it. It wasn't, you weren't seeking fame or anything.
I've never craved attention. It is what comes with doing this, but it wasn't the motivation. It was like, I love music. I want to do my music. I want people to hear it. This is what I can do. I've been doing it since I was 7. I want people to hear what I've done, because that's my contribution. That's always been the prime motivation.
To hear more of this interview, visit our podcast, Life Minute TV, on iTunes and all streaming podcast platforms.